Hello, I'm Renee Kumar, and I'm with Blue Ridge Bookfest 2015. As you know, we put on our festival once a year, but we always take the opportunity to invite some of our guest authors into the Blue Ridge Community College recording studio so we can give our viewers a more intimate view of some of the people who are visiting us and showing us the work that they have done. And today my guest is Mary Ann Claud. Mary Ann has written a book called Dancin Man. And if you think Mary Ann looks a little familiar, it's because you used to be a writer for our own Times News.
To my great luck, was to fall into that job. I just came up here one day. I was in my 40s and living in Tryon, and I wanted to write. So I came up here and approached the paper about doing a short column on people in Polk County while they were developing the market there. That morphed into a column for the front page of the Sunday edition when the paper went to a Sunday edition several years later. The column was called Cider from the Press. Not my pick, but that's okay, it worked. And I was allowed free reign. I could go anywhere in Brevard, or Hendersonville, or surround Bat Cave. I wrote about a B&B in Bat Cave, or Tryon, to find interesting stories and interesting people. And so I put my dog in the car and off we went. And we would just stop and talk to people.
Well, now, wait a minute. You're telling me that you just started this. Well, I mean, 40, that was only last year, right?
Right, sure, okay. Right.
But you hadn't written before then?
No. But I had read constantly. I'm an autodidact. I'm a self-taught writer because I have a master's degree in vocal performance, which will not get you a job anywhere. So when I got out of college, I realized what I really wanted was more information, more liberal arts input in my life, and I was going to have to get it on my own. So I started reading. The way I always got information was to read. And the more I read, the more I realized that the literature of a given period is a dead giveaway as to what was going on socially and artistically and critically. So that gave me a new insight into why people write. And it actually was the genesis of the book, that there were some things that I feel that I experienced and that I understand, and I wanted to get that across to other people. It's a microcosm of a story. It's about a very small segment of society, but it's significant because it happened here in the South, in what you call the textile belt, which actually runs from Martinsville, Virginia, all the way down to Columbus, Georgia. And the book involves the collapse, or the collapse in the future of the textile industry. The book is set in the 50s, 60s, 70s in South Carolina.
So what you're talking about in your book, this current book, is an example, is that you tried to bring together in the background of the book what was happening historically in the country,
exactly.
The history of the area, because you used the family is a long time, had a long history in the area. And you brought that all together with the current, the 50s current history of the economy of the time.
Yes.
So I'm guessing that's, when I was trying to figure out what you were talking about, I can see what you're representing here. How do you bring all of that together? You had to do a lot of research.
I did a lot of fascinating research. For instance, I knew very little about trusts and wills. I knew practically nothing. So fortunately, 6 years ago, I married Olin Sansbury. Olin is the Chancellor Emeritus of the University of South Carolina at Spartanburg, and we met when we were 18, and he was a freshman at Wofford, and I was a freshman at Converse, and it didn't take. It didn't work. He went his way, I went my way. We married, we had children, and then both of us lost our spouses within a 5-year period. Sadly for us, but fortunately, a friend of ours who happened to be a psychologist introduced us, and we figured if she knew both of us and she thought we would be a good match, we'd probably be a good match, and we are. Anyway, Olin's smart. He has a PhD in international studies, and he also has a photographic memory. So I could turn to Olin and say, okay, I'm in 1966, I need a song. And he would say, give me a few minutes. And then he'd come back with a couple of song titles. And I'd say, oh yeah, I remember that now. But of course, at the time, I was so immersed in going to school and learning classical music that I didn't hear a lot of pop music. So that's how the references pop up. I ask him, when was the Civil Rights Bill? And he comes through.
Well, he's coming through in a whole lot of other ways, because while you're doing this television presentation, and while you did a presentation this morning for some of our readers in one of the classrooms, he's manned your table. And
absolutely. And he does the numbers. I do the words and he does the numbers. So
he's what I've heard referred to as the trailing spouse. He's following you around now.
He refers to it as driving Miss Daisy, which I can do without, but that's okay too.
Well, there are several avenues I'd like to explore with you. I want
Sure.
to come back and talk about your travels as a writer, but first I want to talk about how you went from no experience as writing to have your own newspaper column to transition into writing a novel. Yeah. How did that all evolve?
Well, again, I read a lot, and I had read a lot, and the more I read, the more I realized that to be a writer, I needed to develop a skill set. Very simple. So I started going to workshops. I joined writers' groups, one in Tryon for a while, one in Asheville, which is the genesis of this book, never thinking that I would write a novel, because a novel? Well, are you kidding? A novel? But the more I wrote and the more concerned I became about learning things like point of view, like character building, like how do you describe how somebody looks? I mean, you can't write every character walking by a mirror. You've got to figure some way to handle certain questions for your readers. And I also wanted very much for my novel to be participatory. I want my readers to buy into it. So what I did was, and here again, the music education, the listening plays into how this book was written. I'd been to the workshops, I got a handle on how it's done. And then I kept reading and seeing how other writers had done it. But what I wanted was to take me as a person out of the book. I want you to meet Ted and Sam and Virginia and Dolly head on as people, hear their voices, get used to their vocabulary, to what they have to say. So I found this wonderful point of view that's called free and direct point of view, and you do it with a little M dash.
Let me explain that,
okay.
Because you and I have had an email discussion about this.
Yeah.
To read your book, I don't find any quotation marks. You start every dialogue piece with your M dash.
Yeah.
And it was a learning experience to get into what you were doing. To me, you were changing the way I read the story.
Yeah. And then when I go to the flashbacks, there's a section in the middle that flashes back to the 50s, and I do use quotation marks to give you a hint that we're in the past, that this is something that's not happening currently in the forward progress of the plot of the story.
Well, it was something getting used to, but I think I told you, it made me pay more attention.
Which was the idea. That was the idea, to
succeed.
hear those voices and to not have me hovering over writing he said, she said every other line, which I find very distracting. Now, what it does do is speed up the dialogue, so that I have had readers tell me that they have gone back and reread the book with a clearer understanding and read it more slowly to be sure that they hear all the voices.
That's what I tell you.
And that they find the metaphors, and that they understand the underlying themes, like water. Water runs all the way through this book, Renee. It's Dolly's, the fountains in her garden, the river is there, the lake where the lawyer John Reese sculls every morning. He's on calm water. He's the only one. That's the only calm water in the story. The fountains, you know. It's just, it was so much fun. It's like, writing a novel is like putting together one of those gigantic 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzles.
So where did the characters come from? You started writing and they birthed themselves, or did you think about it?
I didn't make them up. I discovered them. And I heard them talking to each other. That's how I wrote the novel. I put Ted and Sam in a room, well, in chapter 7, when they meet. They meet at the fraternity house at John Wesley College, where Ted is an incoming freshman. Sam is his big brother, quote, because he's shorter, but that's all right. So I just set them there in that place and let them talk like two people would talk if one was a freshman and one was an incoming freshman. And you know how you always want to make a good impression when you go to some place. Here this kid is who's coming, his parents run a hardware store, and he's going to this very nice private college, and he gets there and the secretary says, aha, Sam Ward is your big brother, aren't you lucky? And then, so, you know, he was nervous enough, and now he goes to meet Sam at the fraternity house, and he meets Virginia, Sam's twin, who is gorgeous and blonde and beautiful, and spends all the summer at Pawleys Island, and they are shagging together, the dance, the South Carolina national dance. And that gave me a chance to describe that, which I've always wanted to do, because I think it's one of the most, it's a mating thing. It's a mating ritual, really.
You're going to make people stop their children from dancing. Be careful.
So we had that going for us. People ask me if it's autobiographical, to the extent that I'm an Episcopalian or a lapsed Episcopalian, and the family is, but that's fairly, that was not an unbelievable premise. So,
but you started out, as we just started this, your response to my question, you said, and Sam was short. I want to know when these characters popped into your mind, or when you discovered them full-bodied? You knew exactly what they looked like?
Yeah, I guess I did. I hadn't thought about it, but I knew Ted was tall and had dark hair, and thick dark hair, and very empathetic eyes. He has dark eyes, but they're, and I think maybe I drew a little bit on my brother, my half-brother, who bless his heart, as we say in the South, was 11 years older than I, and one of the gentlest, kindest, dearest, most admirable men, tall, dark hair. Very gentle, caring person. And so maybe I was thinking a little bit about my brother when I described Ted.
I'm listening to you and thinking you were talking about your husband, Olin.
Well, of course I didn't. But
yeah, you hadn't married him
I
yet?
had already met Ted before I re-met Olin.
Oh,
Ted was in a scrapbook that I had been adding to slowly. At first there was Ted, because I went to a writers' meeting in Asheville, and one of the men at the meeting said, well, we all know women don't know how to write men. And I thought, well, I'm either going to hit this guy or I'm going to go home and learn how to do this. So that was the better choice. I went home and learned how to write a man.
okay. You have to tell me. And what's the secret?
I don't know. I really don't know. I just tried to, in every instance, think about the young men that I grew up with in the town where I lived. They were amazing. Of that group of 4 or 5 guys that I knew that were, older than I was, but it was sort of hero worship for me. One of them turned out to be one of the best doctors in South Carolina. One of them turned out to be one of the best lawyers in South Carolina. And one of them went to the moon. He's an astronaut. He was an astronaut.
Yes.
So, I was thinking, how would they, as adults, react given this situation, or as teenagers, which is really how I saw them, as teenagers, Sam and Ted. So that was part of it. And then Ted had to have a girlfriend, so there was Virginia, this gorgeous blonde, of course, with lots of money.
She came full-bodied.
Absolutely, and she liked him from the beginning, from the get-go, because her mother didn't. And that was always a come-on in those days, So there's Ted and Virginia, and then Dolly came into my life and took it over. Dolly Ward was the first woman who ran a major textile company in the United States in the 60s. Well, that's how you know the book is fiction, because that could not possibly have happened in 1950. It didn't happen until 1990, as a matter of fact. So then I've got another issue here I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with women in business. I'm dealing with women in authoritative positions, women as CEOs, women as mothers and mother-in-laws. And that is the gist of the book is about that family. And what happens to that family happens to lots of families. It's the way they react to what happens that's a little different.
Well, just before the cameras went on, you said that 4-letter, 5-letter word, sequel?
Yes, yes. The sequel is in process. I finished the first draft of it miraculously. Because when I go out on the road, we've done some 50 events now in North and South Carolina, primarily with libraries. We love, both Olin and I venerate books and love libraries. And because of his experience with the university, he knows everybody in South Carolina. So he would call up a friend and say, my wife has written a novel, can you tell us who to contact at the library? We'd like to come down and do a reading. And it worked. Here again, amazingly, we've had some of the most wonderful experiences and exchanges of, I go in and I don't read, we talk about writing, just like we're talking here now.
But sequel, come back to the sequel here.
The sequel came about because every time I did one of these, without fail, somebody would come up to me and say, and then what's going to happen? And the more I started thinking about, well, what does happen? Because I had left some things dangling.
Well, you did this, especially in Ted and Virginia's relationship.
Yes.
That looked, it was going or wasn't going, and their daughter.
Everybody's got a different take on it, Renee. That's what's, and I don't know, you know,
Are they telling, have they told you now where they're going?
Yes, I know where they're ending up now. And that's interesting too, because I knew in writing The Dancin Man, I knew what was going to happen, but I didn't know when it was going to happen or to whom. So I had these too many characters, granted, but as my editor said, if you're going to include all these characters, then make them significant. So I had to go back in a draft and beef up some of my characters, like the brothers. You know, you can't have a bad guy unless he has a henchman, and that is Chip, the older brother, and his younger brother, Warren.
Well, I want to, part of what Blue Ridge Bookfest always does is we say we invite readers to meet writers, but we always at the front end, the day before on Friday, have some workshops for authors to pay attention to some of the issues that are a challenge to an author. And I was over here taking some notes about 50 events that a book doesn't just sell itself.
No.
People don't, you don't publish a book one day and the crowd comes to your door.
Unfortunately. That is the big difference between being self-published and having a publisher. Now, I have had an agent for an earlier book who unfortunately had sent the book out and it was being reviewed, and she was in an automobile accident and didn't survive. And I felt like God was telling me something, so I quit writing with that book. I closed that book, put it in the closet. Yeah, no more.
Right.
They're gone. Those folks are gone. But I knew the trauma connected with trying to find an agent and waiting while the agent, if he or she likes your book, finds a publisher. And I'm too old. I didn't have time for that, so I self-published.
Well, but
you have to do all the promo when you.
This is what I want to talk about. I don't think people, if they aren't writers, understand what writers are going through. I mean, we have this today at Bookfest. We have 45 writers here.
Right.
And that's not all the people that applied. We cut off our applicants in January, and we still had people anxious to come. And they're a regional set of authors. You know, you're a close-by author. But I don't know that people who aren't writing understand the challenges that you have. And I have to say, self-published or not, you still have to hit the road.
Absolutely.
Because we do have, at this year's Book Fest, we have 3 authors who are New York Times best-selling authors in their genre. And they're here in Hendersonville at Blue Ridge Community College.
Well, I think a lot of it goes back to what your goal is as a book fest. You want to bring readers and writers together. Some book fests or some book groups. I personally like to do small, maybe 10 to 25 people, so that people are comfortable asking me questions about the book and why I wrote it and where it's going and all that kind of stuff. But you have to understand marketing, and you have to be comfortable doing your own marketing, which is why I wear black and white and red all the time. You know,
your wardrobe comment. Tell me why you wear black and white and red.
Because the book is black and white and red, and I want people to remember me walking around in my black and white and red holding that book, and they do. And they do.
Well, so where have these 50 events taken place? In North and South Carolina?
North and South Carolina, on both sides of the border. We've been as far south as Mount Pleasant. We did an event there at Barnes & Noble. We've been as far north as Winston-Salem and Raleigh-Durham, in that area. But I grew up on one side or the other of that state line between North and South Carolina. And I know that gives you a lot of contacts. Olin has a lot of friends. I was married to a banker, so I knew a lot of people. And we just ask our friends if they would have us or invite us to your book group. And you know, there are thousands of book groups, and they're all looking for a program, and they all want to talk to the author because they're interested in what went into the process. And it's hard work, you know that. You know that, you've written a book. It is not, I don't know, maybe you're the kind of writer who just sits down and their fingers go to work. Not me.
You work on it.
I edit as I write, and it's very slow. It's slow going. But.
Well, evidently you started the Dancin Man, the notes and the scrapbook that you were keeping almost, what, 10 years ago?
Longer
6 years
than
ago?
that.
Oh, my goodness.
And put it aside because life interfered. I had 2 children who were who evolved into college age. At one point, we were commuting from Trine to the day school in Spartanburg for an education for them. Then, as soon as that got under control, my parents began to deteriorate physically, and so there's just my brother and me, and so I became the primary caregiver.
So, with that said, at what point did you start putting a story together? Was that 3 years before publication, 5 years before publication?
About 2.5, 3 years. A friend of Olin's came to visit. I think he came to make sure I was the right person that Olin had married. And he had just written a book called Code of the Forest. His name is John Buchan. He's a lawyer in Charlotte. And John read us part of the book, and I said, I wrote a novel. And he said, where is it? And I said, it's in a beach bag upstairs in the closet. And he said, get it out. Get it out and get to work. So I got it out, and Olin read a chapter, and he said, well, you know, it's not my kind of book, because he's a historian. But he said, it's kind of interesting. So why don't you see what you can do with it? If you want to do it, I will support you. And that, as they say, is history.
Well, how did, in all of these particulars, what is the thing that you learned that you could pass on to other authors who want to follow in your footsteps and publish and get out there and make 50 appearances?
Oh, geez. Well, Mary, a PhD with photographic memory, that's the first thing. The second thing is be extremely self-disciplined. The writing life is focused, and there are times when I actually was living in 2 worlds. I was writing about this family in this time for 8 hours a day or 6 hours minimum, and then I would close my computer and come back into my husband's world and the IGA and going, I'm cooking. I've got a household I've got to run here. So that you've got to be able to make that switch. And when you're out on the road, you've got to be flexible, because you never know whether A, people have read the book. They may have, they may not have. And how much plot am I, like right now, how much plot am I giving away? Or do I need to leave that up to the reader? Or, you know.
Or have you given enough away that your
Maybe
readers
I
want to
tempted
come
them.
in? Yeah, have you tempted enough people who haven't read you? And even to the point of getting your cover design, did you do that?
No, I got hooked up with John Buchan's publicist, a cute little girl named Cindy Campbell. Cindy introduced me to Nora Estheimer, who wrote a book and self-published it and realized how hard it was and set up a business to help. It's called Literary Services, is what she offers. She edits, she can get you a copy editor, a cover designer, and guide you through the process of self-publishing and print on demand, and how do you get on Amazon, how do you get on Barnes & Noble, and how many books do you need when you start out? I mean, it's just, she's wonderful.
Well, as we're going toward the wrap-up of this program, who is the Dancin Man?
Ted. Ted is the Dancin Man, but then the more because, you know,
Well, it's a toy too.
it is the Dancin Man itself is an Appalachian toy, but it just sits there until somebody manipulates it.
And that's
And
Ted.
that's the metaphor.
And that's where we're tempting all the readers to learn about who
Well, he's not the
Dancin'
only
Man
one
is.
getting manipulated either, I found out as I continued to write the book.
So you're working on a sequel,
I am.
which will be coming up
Within the year.
within the year. And I'm listening to you talk about your discipline, and you learned to be a newspaper writer and hit those deadlines.
Yep,
And that gave you the discipline, did it not?
I think,
To
to a great extent. it
and
did.
you're a self-taught writer.
Autodidact.
Oh, autodidact.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think you might be the first admitted autodidact that I've ever
Call it like
interviewed.
it is.
Yes. And Mary Ann Claud, I am delighted that you took the opportunity to join us here. I hope that your experience with Blue Ridge Bookfest 2015 is a good one, and I hope that all other authors find a trailing spouse like Olin who is as willing as he is to support you in all of these endeavors.
Well, and they need a Renee, too, to make it happen. Thank you so much for the opportunity. If you hadn't read the book and reviewed it, I wouldn't be here.
Well, thank you very much. And viewers, thank you all very much for joining us again for an author interview for Blue Ridge Bookfest 2015 with our partners at Blue Ridge Community College.
You are watching BRCC TV, the education channel.